NTNX was on last weekend, maybe, excuse me, the weekend before. But you can see on all three time frames where the spot is that if we get some big volume and a push through that area, a follow-up to this volume and this gap, which came as an earnings catalyst, you can see here, earnings was not a whole lot of, looks like we had a little shakedown to the 23, but ultimately we've shaped right back up. Incredibly, we've made this move into a downward market, and even as the market sold off sharply, this stock held up really tight on top of short-term moving averages, again, near its pivot. Volume was light. So again, if we can see this sort of green volume come back in and take it out through this area of resistance, we could have a powerful mover on our hands, not to mention it's in the right group. It's got the fundamentals. And need I point out relative strength line? I guess I could have circled it here is, excuse me, making new highs ahead of price. So it's leading it there. And the way this is set up, you can really keep your risk super tight and logical. Now, NVIDIA is going to be reporting earnings next week. For now, it looks okay. It nice and tight, kind of drifting along that 50, holding up above the 65. It is not one I would touch until after earnings. So I have no idea which way it will go. Even if you told me what the earnings would be, I would still be very hesitant to try and figure out how the market will react to whatever those numbers will be. So for now, it looks super constructive. It's still big liquid leader, if you will. It's holding up amongst the best of the big semiconductor names. We've got super tight action here. Action on Friday was super constructive. So we'll see what happens after earnings. Maybe we'll get a chance to buy it in and around one of these pivots. But be it the big leader that it is, if you do get a chance, I'd be keeping an alert on this one, just so you're aware of where it is and watching it after earnings to see if you can't work your way in, assuming it is buyable. Upwork, call this a bullish flag. Maybe you want to call this a big sloppy cup and handle. It shouldn't really, because we broke out through the high. It's cup and handle-esque. It's certainly a bull flag. We've got a bit of a launch pad happening here with its longer term moving averages. You can see the shorter term moving averages crossed here. You can see we had a cross back here. We've had super powerful upside volume. It's held up incredibly well and tight, and has acted incredibly constructively relative to the market. So you can see it's starting to push up and through this downtrend here on longer term. On the weekly, again, it looks fantastic. You see that high volume edge, nice tight drift on light volume. So again, our favorite setup, if we were in a better market, this is one of those ideal situations where you can buy on strength and you got a liquid name where it's super easy to manage your risk in a tight, logical way. So SLB, another oil stocks, Lumberjay is a driller. Not exactly, this one's a little bit slower, similar, but different pattern, sloppier cup-ish pattern. You don't have the gap, but you do have the moving averages all crossing underneath. Notice you've got, we had the big volume start right about here, pushed it up. Volume tapers off as we give another little shake and test to this area here, and then volume just explodes as it pushes back above all of its moving averages and through all of this resistance. So again, yeah, it did decline on a little bit, much less than the market. So it's exhibited much more relative strength, and this pattern is super constructive. Again, it's high quality, liquid, institutional quality name in that oil and related group. So if we can see a follow-up to this volume here as it pushes through highs, again, it's one of those ideal situations where you can buy it on strength and keep your risk super tight and logical. Let's say since the market bottomed in the beginning of October, or at least the beginning of this year, have been largely tech, lots of semiconductor stocks and other large cap liquid tech names, in addition to the home builders, as well as some biotech that was very strong early on, along with the home builders. But all three of those areas were a big part of leading the market up to where it's been. So at this point, what we're looking at is money flowing out of those stocks, which makes sense. You're going to see some profit taken, money will flow out of there. And the key right now is we're not seeing it run into defensive areas of the market. It's staying within that section of the market that we consider traditional growth. So we do see encouraging signs under the surface, but with all four major indexes, excuse me, back underneath their 50-day, which is the black line, and 65-day exponential moving averages, we've got to keep that market status in downtrend, and we would suggest being extremely careful, wouldn't be in a rush to buy anything, even though we may see things break out as rotation continues.